Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X researcher and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled Planet X and the Flood. Where did the waters of the flood come from? Now, as I stated in Article 516, the Great Flood Cataclysm caused the Earth to expand and oceans to appear. Since the solar system seems to be within the Planet X system, which is a system comprised of perhaps tens of thousands of dead star systems, where each system may consist of a dead star and dead planets and moons, and with each object having become a severely energy-depleted stellar core surrounded by a debris field, which would have once been the material making up the outer layers of each celestial object. The Great Flood must have been caused by the arrival of a Planet X system star system in the solar system. Those planets that had oceans would have a lot of water in their debris fields, which had now turned into pieces of ice, as the coldness of space would not allow water to remain in the liquid phase. And here, this is what's illustrated here, how a living planet, once it dies, it becomes one of these dead planets. It's made up of the core of the original planet surrounded by a debris field, which used to be the layers, the outer layers of the planet. And the atmosphere would be in there somewhere as well, probably frozen, as well as ocean water frozen into blocks of ice. You may look at Article 455 for more details. Now, if a dead planet with lots of water in its debris field had approached the Earth at the time of the flood, the pieces of ice would enter the atmosphere at the same time as the planetary core. Inside the atmosphere, the water would warm up and defrost. It would, however, remain suspended in the atmosphere until it gained enough gravitational potential to reach the surface, which may be why it did not all come down at once, but it took 40 days for all the water to reach the surface. The Bible states in Genesis 7 verse 12 that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The Bible also talks about the fountains of the great deep opening up, which many take to mean water coming from the ground. And you may look at Genesis 7 verse 11, which states, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, that same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." So we do know that water came from the sky. And then it talks about fountains of the great deep, so from deep within the earth. However, as we are talking about a cataclysmic event of such magnitude that it caused the earth to expand to twice its size and oceans to appear. So the Earth's continents, and you can see here on these models, and these come from Klaus Vogel, and he was the one that proposed this expanding Earth model, because he saw that Earth's continents fit exactly and perfectly on a much smaller globe. And if they had spread apart due to the Earth expanding, then you can also explain why the southern continents, the southern hemisphere continents, are further apart than the northern hemisphere continents. And you can see how it comes about in these models. And the reason for that was because the northern hemisphere continents were close to the North Pole to start off with. And what happened there was a small ocean opened up at the North Pole, and so the continents did not move very far apart, because the Earth, as it expands, would expand much more at the equator than it does at the poles. So this would mean that these continents in the southern hemisphere would be further apart as the Earth expands. And you can see it happening in these models that show this expansion. So his model explains why the continents are not together anymore, and how they managed to get in the positions that they are in. In other words, it was caused by the Earth expanding. And he could also show why certain continents ended up in exactly what positions from these models. And then if we look at the ocean floor, we can see mid-ocean ridges. And these mid-ocean ridges actually define the direction in which the pulling took place. So what occurred here is this side pulled away from that side, and then the ocean ridge formed in the center. And then there's a secondary pulling here where a secondary ridge formed. You can see it there. And here you can see the ridge. You can see that side pulled away from that side. There's a ridge there, that side pulled away from that side, and so on. So it shows that the ocean basins were created by this pulling apart of the ground on the surface of the earth. So the seabed between the continents was roughly level, and it was the expansion that created the deeper ocean floor, which we see here, in which the waters of the flood settle, causing the flood level to drop. The higher level surface is what was once the surface of the planet and is now known as continental shelves. The Planet X object capable of creating such a cataclysm would most certainly be very large in relation to the Earth, possibly as large as the Earth or larger. These very large stellar cores induce CMEs on the Sun and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions on the Earth. And you may look at Article 505 entitled Planet X Creating Earthquakes by Inducing Positive Plasma Current Flows. This particular stellar core was most likely very large, as the Earth's surface is littered with volcanoes, which most likely also formed at this time. So the mention of fountains of the deep in the Bible most likely refers to volcanoes forming and erupting at this time. And you can see what that may have looked like here. So there was water raining down on the earth from above, and the volcanoes were forming and erupting. And large lava flows would then occur under the water as the flood level rose. Now, it is possible that water issued from the ground at the same time, but it is unlikely that there was an ocean under the top layers of rock large enough to engulf the whole planet with water, simply because the water would have been under huge pressure and would have found a way out of the ground a long time before the flood. Water, as a result of its ability to flow, finds its way out of any small hole in a container when under pressure. So in conclusion, the water which caused the Great Flood most likely came from the debris field of a large stellar core which approached Earth at the time. The stellar core must have once been a large planet with oceans on it. In the next article, I'll show that the Earth expanded due to matter creation by the Earth's core. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.